Okay, so welcome everybody back to our series of Zoom webinars, which we've been doing since we started doing back in April, which seems like such a long time ago, but also just yesterday. Tonight we have a very special guest with us. And just as a reminder to everybody, myself, Adam and I will be welcoming you, and then we're just gonna be quiet and let speak. If you have, if you want to have conversations with the other attendees, please type in the chat function at the bottom of the window. If you have questions, please put it in the Q&A function, which is a little further over to the right. And I will give you guys a special challenge here tonight. Andre has said that he looks forward to a question that he doesn't know the answer to. So if you would like to try to stump him, please get as obscure as you want with your questions in the Q&A, and we will make sure to pose all of those questions. So with that, I'll hand it over to Adam to introduce our guest.
All right, well, thank you, Kathleen, and obviously thank you, Andre, for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very lucky to have André Bernheim, the CEO of Mondaine, with us tonight. And not only is he the CEO, but he is also the son of the founder. So if anybody knows Mondaine, it's this gentleman right here. Again, though, he has presented us with a challenge, and one that I hope we are equal to, which is to ask this man a question he does not know the answer to. Having talked to him a little bit before this, though, I get the impression that that's easier said than done. So, but with that said, I think we all are familiar with Mondaine. We're definitely familiar with the design, but there's a lot of history here, and there's a lot of interesting things that they're doing today in areas of sustainability, which I think is more important than ever. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Andre. And again, welcome, thank you, and the floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Kathleen and Adam, for giving me the opportunity. Very happy and proud to be here. Talking from Switzerland, so across the Atlantic. I hope you all can hear me well. Thanks for the introduction. And I really would like to start with the Mondaine group, as you can see on the first slide. We do have in our group 4 brands. Mondaine, that's what we will be talking to tonight. Luminox, which my brother and myself bought some years ago. M-Watch, brand in the lower price segment. All these 3 brands are Swiss-made. We have different positioning of these brands, so they don't really compete with each other's, clearly separated, but under one roof and one guidance. Pierre Cardin is a brand which we just started or tried actually to launch in February this year. Now we all know what happened in February, so that got a little bit held up, unfortunately. So that's a little bit about our brands, but let's talk a bit about the family history.
I'm just sorry to interrupt you, Andre, but it doesn't look like it's in presentation mode at the moment, so we're not seeing the slide. It's still small on our screen.
It is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The picture, we see the family picture, but it still looks small. So you might need
to, a nice screen.
Yeah, you might need to share a different window.
Is it better now?
No, we don't. We still see it in small mode. I think it's.
Yeah.
I think.
Why don't you try hitting that presentation button again? Maybe that was the. I should add, people, that today has been a strange day, technology-wise. I'm actually at my in-laws because I have no internet in my house. So they're gremlins afoot.
It might be in another window. I can't. It's with Google Slides. Sometimes it pops up in a different window, but yeah, right now we're.
What are you seeing now? Now you're seeing it really small.
It's small, yeah. Apologies, all. This is sometimes one of the challenges of doing these digitally. So we will get it sorted out in just a moment. In the meantime,
I'm really sorry about that, but
no. Yeah, that's the one. That button right there. But for some reason, it's not pulling
It's
us
not
into
popping
the
up.
full mode.
Hmm.
Well, what's that yellow button do? I really want to press that one, even though I can't.
Where do you
But
see
I
that?
don't. That's the Fliegen.
Yeah, let me see if
Again, I shouldn't be doing accents and speaking German.
not to do any accents at all. Sorry about that. So let's see if we can get it on the screen here.
Can you try it?
Yes, I am trying now. Give me one moment, please.
Well, I'm definitely getting some interesting comments here. I've got a lovely comment from Mr. Lambden, who is requesting that I pay my bills at home so they'll turn my internet back on. That is really good advice from James, and I'm going to do that. I promise, as soon as we're done here.
Yes, I apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm just trying to get this working on my laptop here. Sorry.
I just like seeing everything in German on
It's still the same?
I have no idea how to use PowerPoint, so.
No, let me just try one more time here. Sorry.
Is it better now?
Ah!
I can see the,
There.
yes, there it is. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
good, got it.
All right.
Very sorry for that.
Right.
No, this is the fun part. You know, everyone loves to see how the sausage is made.
Good. All right, so let me talk a little bit about our history and where we're coming from and where we are. The company
Handsome young
was,
man.
sorry?
I'm just looking at the handsome young men here.
The company was founded by my brother and my father and myself, our father, in the, well, we call it 51 because then when actually the company was founded, but I think it's interesting to know how he started. My father started really right after World War II. He was a tailor because that's what his father, who died when he still was very young, he asked him to become a tailor, a decent job, as they used to call it at those days. So that's what he was, a tailor. But when the refugees had to leave Switzerland again after the war, they asked him if he could buy some watches left and right and send it to them wherever they went out in the world. So that's how he really got into the watch industry. But very soon he realized that the watch industry is not very reliable in terms of quality, prices, on-time delivery. So that's how he decided, let's try to do it himself. He was actually a poor man. He didn't have any money. So a startup, as we would call it today. He learned walking, and by the early 60s, he was able to build his first factory in Switzerland, a small one, which we actually used until 2008. So that's how he started. My father was a very curious person in technology. Everything what said, when somebody told him that's not possible, that was a challenge for him to prove that it is possible. So he was kind of stubborn as well. You could say that. And with his capabilities and will to succeed, he really did a lot of things. And I will mention some of them during the course, but I think one of his big achievements was in the late 60s and early 70s when he developed, together with a very tiny team of 5 people, the first and most likely one of the first digital watches worldwide, first in LED. As you are all watch savvies, I think you know what that is. And right after, also LCD watches. We produced them in Switzerland in the early 70s until about 76, until we realized, or my father at those days realized that that's not a future. Asia will take over at no cost. And so he moved back to the traditional analog watches. Today, the company belongs to my brother, Ronnie, and myself. So I'm the younger brother, or he's the older one, whatever way you'd like to look at it. But we are still the owners, independent from anything else, and that's how we would like to stay and run our business. We were working together with our father until the year 1999, when my father decided to retire. My brother and myself were heading the company jointly until 2002, when we decided that I should take over the position as a CEO on the operational part, and he would take the part of strategics and looking for opportunities. So he did some projects like a new ERP system, and later on the acquisition of Luminox. And in the, quickly think, 2009, we got partners with some friends for another company which he was then heading. It was a company where we did a lot of licenses, mainly of fashion brands like Esprit, Puma, Givenchy, and some more. And I was running the Mondaine operational part. As mentioned, we are independent. We are not where everybody else in the watch industry is, because they are usually in the on the west side of Switzerland, west and southern part. We are in Zurich, which is more in the center or a little bit north of the center, Zurich area at the Lake of Zurich, where our headquarters is. At the headquarters, we are 45 people running all 4 brands: the logistic, the management, the marketing, international sales, and a marketing team, plus a digital marketing team. So we run our own shops in Switzerland, Germany, and Austria and UK out of Switzerland. And of course, we support all our international distributors for all the brands. So that's quite a tiny team for a big job. What it requires is knowledge, one thing, dedication, and the flexibility to think across the border. You can imagine that with 45 people and so many different kind of things, there is not a substitute for each position. So each one has to jump in if somebody gets sick or holidays or whatever. Excuse me, no corona.
No.
Today when you are coughing, everybody is scared. But
well, fortunately, we're social distancing by several thousand miles. So
exactly.
We'll be fine. But it's interesting. You guys have been very busy, it seems like.
Yeah.
But, you know, what I'm curious about most, and obviously I know you're going to get to that probably, but is, you know, how, you know, the whole Swiss railway clock design came about and how this, you know, became part of what you guys are doing.
I'll jump into that in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Just quickly running you through
Certainly
what we did. And I think one big important part is our factory. In 2008, as everybody knows, the Lehman Brothers collapsed, the banks, which created a big crisis worldwide. And exactly that year, actually 2 weeks after the collapse, we decided to build a new factory in Switzerland. And it's probably one of the most advanced factories in Switzerland, with air circulation, overpressure, for dust reasons, for humidity reasons. So I think we really have got a huge, great place out here, and you will see it in a moment later on. So whatever else, I think you have read it in the meantime. So I'll move on. What you see here on the picture is, in the center, our father, who passed away unfortunately in 2007. And on the right-hand side, my brother and me on the left. Now, as you realize, I look different today, a little bit more gray and so on. But I will come back to that picture in a later stage. So, Mondaine, the brand Mondaine. What makes the brand so special? And I think it's best if we run through this here, the key facts, why Mondaine is, with our SBB watch, is so unique. Now, SBB, it's very difficult to pronounce in English. What it means is official Swiss Railways. And if you want to hear it in German, Schweizerische Bundesbahn. So that's the official word. Actually, they say we have got 4 official languages. So the official logo actually shows 4 abbreviations of the SBB. The SBB design was, and I think that's really amazing. It was designed in 1944 by an SBB engineer by the name of Hans Hilfiger. And yes, there is some resemblance with another name of Hilfiger, you know, and actually they were related some degrees. I don't exactly know how, but they were related. He was the engineer of the SBB. And what he did, if you allow me to make a little bit of an excursus here on the design, he was an engineer, he was not a designer. So the duty he got was to produce a clock in all the Swiss stations, which would allow the trains to start moving on a precise moment, at a precise moment. Because before that time, the trains didn't actually knew when to leave. And of course, that created a lot of jam and traffic and even dangerous. So he was the person to synchronize all the clocks in Switzerland. Now, of course, in those days, there was no GPS or any kind of other means. So what he invented was, the only thing what was existing were telephone lines, and the telephone lines were all leading along the SBB tracks. So he used the telephone line. He built one mother clock, which is based outside of Zurich, and the other clocks were just engines. Now, he synchronized all clocks in all Swiss train stations by this one clock from Zurich. And he made a trick, and we'll come to that, is because these engines in the train stations, they were running fast. So he programmed it, or he produced the clocks in a way that they were running fast. The second hand was running fast and still is since 1944. The second hand was turning fast and then stopped for 2 seconds before it started running again. That was the way how he could really synchronize all the clocks at all train stations. Why did he design the clock like this? Very simple reason. The people going to the station needed to see when the trains are leaving, because the trains are leaving on time. On time means almost on the second. So when people saw that the second hand is still at a position 30 from far distance, they knew, okay, they still have got some moments to walk to the next train. When it was two to the clock, to the full hour, then they knew they had to enter into the train. So that's how really it was made, to be visible from far distance. And still today, I'm pretty much convinced it's one or the best readable watch. It made it also very iconic. And of course, all our watches are Swiss made. It was hanging at all the train stations in Switzerland until the year 86, when my brother found it, so to say. Now, of course, that's a joke. It was there all the time, and every child in Switzerland knows the Swiss railway clock. But nobody really had the idea to take the clock from the station and put it on a wrist. So we went to see the Swiss Railways authorities and asked them if we could have a license. And the answer was no. No, because they only transport goods and people. They don't have licenses. So that's not their business. So my brother had the idea to ask, okay, could we have a license to use your logo? Oh, yes, that could be a possibility. So since '86, we do have the license with the SBB for worldwide, of course, for all watches and clocks, except for the clocks at the stations. Now, the design is sustainable, as we call it, because sustainability is not equal to ecology. Sustainability is much more than just ecology. It's a design which can be sustainable, but a company which sustains many crises is also sustainable. And this design really has managed to be as modern and as liked as it was at those days. And it was as good that Apple, I think it was in the year 2013. Excuse me for a second.
Certainly.
It's getting winter here and the air is extremely dry. I'm not used to it yet. Apple put the exact SBB design on their iOS 6. That was about 2012. We are pretty much convinced that somebody from the design team of Apple saw our watches in the San Francisco MoMA, where we are offering those watches, or at least did. I'm not sure. I know they rebuilt their store, so I'm not sure if it's still there. And they really copied it one-to-one. Now, as you are all watch enthusiasts, you know that on the second hand, in the center of the second hand, there is a white dot, which is how the second hand is attached to the movement. They even copied this. So the only thing they did was they removed the logos. Now, of course, the SBB, owner of the design, complained, and they found a settlement very quickly. So Apple didn't have to remove their iOS 6, but and they paid, of course. We don't know how much, but I'm pretty sure it's substantial. So I think we were really somehow flattered that if a company like Apple, who have got great designers themselves, who could choose of millions of designs in the world, they copied our design. So we must be doing something absolutely right.
As they say, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I remember when that went down, and I have to say, I kind of miss having the clock there as an option, but I'm glad that the case was won and handled, to everyone's satisfaction.
Well, that was actually done pretty fast because Apple had to move the iOS was on all the mobile phones, so there wasn't any way around it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Now, what makes our company special, I think, as well, is a high level of innovation. I mentioned before the first LED and LCD watches. In the meantime, of course, there have been other inventions, or at least things which we were in a very early moment part of it. I just mentioned the words here, and I will show you more of the designs later. Backlight, innovation, which is totally obvious, but nobody was thinking of it. Maybe similar to the SBB clock, which was hanging there for over 40 years. Nobody realized or could imagine to put it on a wrist. the stop to go. I will go deep into that part. PayChip, contactless payment in a different way than most other companies doing it today. We started 2016 with it when hardly anyone was ready to it for contactless payment. Today, of course, also with Corona, the situation has changed. So 40 years ago, and we were again a little bit early. And the smart clock was the other part. I'll go into it deeper. Sustainability will be a topic which I'll cover in a moment, probably afterwards. And I think what also is important for us is, of course, the worldwide distribution and loyalty to our customers and long-term relationship, like with the SPPs since '86, and we try to handle it the same way with our distributors around the globe and with our retailers and so on. So I think that's part of a small, medium company family sense in all ways. Any questions here?
Let's see. I don't think we have any questions up just yet. So I think we can keep moving forward.
Good. Now, I was covering about a lot of this, and at the corner left, you see the biggest clock, which is in this central station in Zurich. It also shows our logo. There are hundreds of thousands of people, not at the moment, but usually passing through that, and it's called the meeting point. So that's really the big clock in Switzerland. And as you can see on this picture to the right, the clocks are hanging, several of them at each of the stations. And we are using, and that's what's shown on the on our wristwatch here, we are using the original drawings from 1944, and we are not allowed to change anything. So it's really unchanged. And I asked that you ask me questions which are hard to imagine about our company or our brands, which I cannot answer. Just try to think of any kind of a product which has not changed any part for 70 years. I think it's unique, and it's good enough if Apple is trying to copy it.
That's pretty cool.
It's amazing. Now, stop to go. And a question to all, of course, you cannot answer. Oh. Sorry. How many seconds is a minute?
Oh, I know this one. I know this one. That's 60.
Thank you.
See?
Now, I'm telling you, Adam, unfortunately, you're wrong. It's 58. And to be very precise, 58.5 seconds. Because that's the speed of the clocks, all our stations today. And that's what we built a new movement out of zero. And I'm definitely sure it's the only watch in the world which stops, and we want it to stop. Because usually nobody ever wants a watch to stop. We want it to stop every minute for 1.5 seconds. What it needed on a more technical part is we have 2 engines in it running independently and then being synchronized electronically. So the second hand, as on the station, is doing 1 full turn in 58.5 seconds. Then it stops and starts moving again. So that's something really unique, technically very complex, and we were really proud to do this. It was a big challenge, but as my father used to say, I know is not an answer, it's just a challenge. So we took that challenge, and for us, it's more than just doing what the original clocks in the station is doing. And I think it's more valid today than ever. There are 2 seconds to remember. The 2 seconds where the watch stops at 12 o'clock, and 2 seconds to remember in everybody's life. So I'm sure everybody of you have got 2 seconds you will never forget. Hopefully mainly good ones, but I'm sure unfortunately also not so nice ones. And the clock also should help you to remember those good moments. I'm pretty sure there will be some questions coming here. Now, let me show you quickly a movie about the stop to go, how it looks like. I'll shut up for a moment. This is our factory. All right, now I'll take off my watch for a moment to go a little bit into the details of the watch. From the front, our watches all look very similar because the design of the dial and the hands are so strong, highly recognizable. You will never forget it if you have seen it once. Now, for this special movement, we had to do some special things. Now, first of all, the case, as you saw in the movie at the station, it's just a round case. And the round case is just attached to the ceiling. So what we did is also we have a round case and it has just got these 2 things on the side. It's difficult to see, but let me try to get it a little bit closer. So it's like a half ring on each side, holding the round clock watch. If you look at the crown, it's not a normal crown. The shape is different, but the shape has a very specific function. Unlike every other crown, it's actually a flip button. So if you want to change the time or set the hand again when the second hand has moved because of a shock or anything, you just don't turn the crown, but you just push it to the side, just slightly, step by step, or keep on holding it. So it's like a switch. Makes it very special, unlike really everything else. And that's how it looks from the backside.
So we have a question quickly, Andre, if you don't mind my popping in with one, but we have a question. It's why did they originally make the clock stall for 2 seconds? What's the story behind that?
Well, as I tried to explain before, the clocks were not synchronized in Switzerland before 1944. So the idea of Hans Hilfiger was that let's run all the clocks except the main clock, the mother clock in Zurich. He just lets them run fast and then stop them. In those days, it was a manual pin coming out to hold back the second hand from moving. And when it got the signal from the Zurich main station, this pin retracted, so the second hand could start moving again. So it had really the function to make all watches show exactly the same time, so the train knew when they have to leave in order not to crash. Was that?
Yeah, it's actually kind of an ingenious way to synchronize it, because everything had to be done analog back then. So since you couldn't really control if it was going to be a little faster or slower, I guess you just let them run a little fast, and then everybody got stopped at that one point, so that at the top of that minute, every clock had the exact same time.
Exactly.
And so it was continually updating itself. And so now this is just sort of I think a fun way to pay homage to that past. And it is, I was just actually commenting, one of our members has that watch and has the clock as well. But it's a watch that I've always been fascinated with. And I was always curious. I never really understood how the crown worked on that. And as you were describing it, I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is like a switch. And then of course it is a switch.
Exactly.
You mentioned something before. I mean, I know what it is. I'm not sure if people are aware of when you mentioned the backlight, or, how does that work, in terms of the clock. Because you look at these clocks, they're incredibly legible, and the watches are legible too, but how do you tell time in the dark?
Thank you for that question, and I'm glad to come to this. Let me move quickly forward to that part. I'm a night person. That's why I don't feel, it's close to midnight here. And I hate looking at a watch and cannot read the time. So basically, the one thing a watch really should do is to tell time at any daylight or not. Now, our design is as it is. We cannot change anything. So the white dial, well, we are allowed sometimes to make a black dial, but usually that's the original is white dial with black hands. So all the other watch brands, they're putting superluminova on the hands. Now that would disturb the design. So I've got a dog and I'm walking him every night. And when walking again, I couldn't read the time, and I was starting thinking, hey, how could I make our Mondaine watches showing the time at night without disturbing the design? And I had the idea, well, why don't we put the superluminova on the rear side of the hands? So I went to see our technical people and asked them, hey, could we do hands with superluminova on the back side? And he looked at me like, hey, is he going nuts? I said, no, doesn't work. So I asked him, why doesn't it work? Well, nobody did it. I said, well, because nobody did it doesn't mean it doesn't work. In Switzerland we ski a lot, and snow is reflecting the light and the UV light of the sun very strongly. So a white dial is reflecting as well. But well, try it. So they went to a supplier, that hand supplier, and they asked him to put some superluminova on the backside and tried it out. And they came kind of proudly showing me, you see, it doesn't work. So I said, okay, what did you do? I said, well, we put some superluminova on the backside. I said, well, look, the factory is 50 miles from our office. Why don't you talk to these guys and tell them our issue and what we would like to do? So they went to go to see him, and sure enough, a few weeks later, they came back and said, hey, it works. Yes, it does. It's pure physics. The sunlight reflects on the dial and charges the superluminova, which will then emerge from the backside. And what we call it is a little bit the ghost light, because it looks like a ghost light. And we implemented this technology on our Stop to Go and another series of SPB watches called the Giant. And the good thing is you really don't see anything during daytime. It's just at night when it starts really reflecting on the dial, and you will see it like a ghost light coming out from the sides.
That's
the material is just a superluminova, strong enough. We even got a patent on it, surprisingly, because nobody really had the idea.
Question: how long? I mean, I don't know if you'll know the precise answer to this, but if you were to wear this watch all day long out in bright sunlight, how long do you think that the hands would hold that charge of light and continue to be ghostly?
Well, before it's going to ghost, it's going to sleep. Of course, it depends how much light the watch is going to be reflected on the dial. In wintertime, when you're wearing coats and everything, or sweaters, and the watch is covered, then of course it's difficult for the superluminova to be charged. But that's the same with every watch. I wear the watch at night, and when I usually wake up the first time in the morning, I still can read the time. So we are using a very strong superluminova, a very thick one. We had to build the hands in a way that we allow more space between the hands. So we had to increase a little bit the thickness of the watch. And of course, that has also its price because of the thickness of the superluminova material, which is pretty much expensive. But the good thing is it does glow. But it really depends how much you charge it up beforehand.
Okay.
It's a very neat effect.
So we actually have a question in the audience as well to ask. I know the answer to this, which is, do all Mondaine watches look exactly the same? And of course, no. You have other collections besides this one that we've been looking at. But we also have another question in the Q&A, which I'd like to, because I have a connection here. So someone asked if you could talk about the Helvetica collection and how that design, if that design was inspired by the classic one. And the connection I have here is actually a friend of mine, Dan Radigan, who used to be the head of Monotype, actually worked on the project. I went when there was an event at the Museum of Modern Art here in New York City. I went to that with him, and when the watch was launched, and it's quite a cool watch. And in fact, the thing I like the most about it is that the alignment of the logos, because it's not centered. So the justified alignment, I think, is a really cool design element on the dial. But if you could speak a little bit to the other collections as well, and how you approach those designs, and if it's inspired by the classic watches as well.
Yeah, very, very happy to hear that question. So the Mondaine brand, we have two families, as we call them. One is the SPB, and the second one is the Helvetica. They have to stand both under the same roof and fulfill the same criteria in terms of Swiss made, but mainly minimalistic and clean and unmistakable designs. And that's why we also went to see Monotype and many people who were involved with Helvetica, the fund. And as you probably know, there's hardly any place you can move around in the US without popping into Helvetica, even if you don't know the font or how it looks like. But I can tell you it's all over. So Helvetica is the Latin word for Swiss. At our parliament, it says in big letters, Confederatio Helvetica, Swiss Confederation. So Helvetica actually has a double meaning. It's Helvetica the font, and it's Helvetica Swiss. In my view, there can be nothing more Swiss than Swiss Helvetica. So we had a designer to draw a Helvetica line, which both can fulfill the needs or the desire of typography, but as well of Swiss and Mondaine, the minimalistic, clear language. The result was really a family of different watches, or is a family of different watches in the fonts, like on a font for screens or for computers, light, regular, and bold. And what we did as well, and that was in 2016, we launched the first smart Helvetica, which is an analog watch with additional features. Of course, that was really early. We were before Apple, and afterwards in many articles, we were named as the most beautiful smartwatch. Now, I don't like to call it actually smartwatch. I think it's more a connected watch with additional features. And what I would like to show to you when I talk about the connected watches is, let me quickly see. Where's the clock? Here. Wall clock, which is a very, very important part of our collection. Also, this clock is controlled by your mobile phone or a mobile device, and it has got the stop-to-go function as well. So again, cool. Probably the only clock in the world, except for the Swiss stations, where the second-hand or the clock actually stops every minute for 1.5 seconds, and is being controlled by the mobile device. So that's actually our second connected watch beside the Helvetica connected. Did that answer your question, Kathleen?
Yeah, thank you.
Good. If you allow me, we have what we call a breaking news, and it's really today. We just released the press information. It went out tonight, so you're probably the first one to hear it in public. We are most likely the first watch group becoming CO2 neutral in a total way. Entirely CO2 neutral.
Wow. All right, that is big.
Now, what does it mean actually to be entirely CO2 neutral? The Paris Agreement calls for actually 3 scenes. One is 1, 2, and 3. And what we are doing is, whatever we do, we calculate into our CO2 balance and calculate everything from the parts, from the pollution or the CO2 we are producing still at the factory, whatever we cannot produce with our solar panels, our flying, our business cars, just count everything into it. Whatever we're doing, whatever we are touching is counted into it, and we became CO2 neutral. Now, what does that mean? Of course, you can say we will not change the world. We are too small as a company. The watch industry might be even too small to change the world because there are bigger polluters than the watch industry. But I'm convinced it gives a good signal to the world. If a small, medium company like us can achieve this, the others probably could too. And so our credo is better, step by step. And I'll show you quickly a movie. It's about our factory again. So that's in Solothurn. That's inside the factory. So of course, the production of electricity in our factory helps to reduce our CO2 footprint. We are approximately 70% of the electricity needed we are producing ourselves. That's one part, how to reduce the footprint, but there are many other areas how to do it. Now, we do have about 50 years of experience with taking ecology really serious. And I won't read out everything to you because it's a long list. I think one thing which is novelty, which we introduced last year, at least I didn't hear or read anything, and I'm reading quite a bit. We are the first watch company offering a watch recycling. Now, of course, if somebody has got a Rolex or whatever expensive watch, they will not throw it away or give it away for dismantling. But there are so many other watches around, and we not only take back our own watches, but we also take watches back from other brands, with one exception, which is plastic watches from other brands. So that's a really big part as well for us to really close the circle from production up to the recycling at the end of the lifestyle. Talking about that product, we introduced 4 years ago a watch in the SBB collection, which is called Essence. So it's the SBB Essence. And the interesting thing about this product is the case and the straps are made out of, there are different words for it. Castor oil probably is the best known word in your area. Ricinus is more known in our area. It's plant-based from a so-called wonder tree, a nice bush. It's not even a tree, but it's a bush, but it's called wonder tree. We use the seeds. The seeds are put into oil, and that oil actually is used quite a lot in cosmetics and medicine. So it's very human-friendly, skin and so on. And we are producing the straps and cases out of that castor oil. We are using different kind of straps for it, not only the castor one, but also we use, for example, recycled PET bottles as felt or as nylon or cork, linen, wool. And we are experimenting to use other kind of materials like paper. Surprisingly, I was testing it myself for about 4 months, and it's terrific. Feels good, and it really lasts good. Apple skin is another thing we are testing, and some other materials, which I rather not tell you yet until we really tested it well. And with the goal that we can really start replacing leather as of next year. That would really be a big step. Gift boxes is another polluter. The gift boxes we have for the Essence model, we are using a recycled PET pouch, which can be used as a handy pouch, mobile phone pouch. And all other gift boxes of Mondaine will also be made in a new material, cardboard. using 50% or needing 50% less weight and volume, which contributes again, of course, a lot to the CO2 pollution. So we are constantly reducing our CO2 footstep, and whatever we cannot cover ourselves or reduce ourselves, there is always some part which we cannot reduce. We are compensating with a company called Fair Ventures Worldwide, who are reforesting in a very social manner in Indonesia. And so we are compensating for whatever pollution we are producing in CO2. We are building or planting trees, and the trees actually, the seeds are there, the small seedlings, and they will be planted just in 2 weeks from now. And of course, that will help us a lot to compensate for everything which we cannot reduce ourselves. So that's the real breaking news. And if you go on our website, you will see our sustainability report, which is a huge report, where you will see also a timeline, what we achieved in what year. And the first thing we did was 1973, the first solar analog watch worldwide. So solar power already at those days.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
I know that.
Well, and this. Go on, Kathleen.
Yeah, sorry. I know that the option for, well, not just the option, but that you're moving towards making sure that all of your, that you're not going to be using leather straps anymore is definitely a topic that has come up with some of our members, who they may be vegetarian or vegan themselves, and using, sustainable materials or vegan materials is super important to them. We've got a couple of members who immediately, if they buy a watch, they swap the strap out for something that's not leather. So that's quite I think that's important, and something that's a good move on Mondaine's part.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And that it's just come around, and you're constantly applying this to your production.
Adam, you were cut off, or at least on my side.
Adam's
actually commenting in the comments. There are several Oh, yeah, I've got a terrible connection here. Oh, now it's telling me it's unstable.
That's good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not unstable, but the connection's unstable.
Yeah, well, you're unstable as well, but yes, your connection is. So I think what you were saying is what you said in the chat, which is that there are several manufacturers that have made statements that they're working towards being carbon neutral, but it seems like it's you guys have been doing it for much longer, and actually achieving it. So. That's well done.
With its carbon or CO2 neutral, some companies, even some Swiss companies, they say they are CO2 neutral, but they don't say what they include in their calculation. And after doing some research ourselves and asking WWF to help us a little bit on that part, we know that the company, which is very well known, I don't mention the name, they say they are CO2 neutral, but not entirely. So that's why I emphasize on this. We are entirely CO2 neutral, calculating everything together, whatever pollution we are actually producing. And that's the big difference. Is that good? Well, certainly I think it's good, and it certainly should give also a good feeling to our consumers who are buying our watches, that they know they don't produce extra CO2. But again, we are not saving the world. On the other hand, what I really don't like, if companies are making themselves believe that they are eco-friendly, if they are just doing a tiny bit. And I name it, this one is Swatch Group, and you saw our factory before. We have got 800 square meters, which is about 800 square feet of solar panels on our roof. Swatch built just a new headquarters. I don't know how many times bigger than our factory. and they only have half the number of solar panels on their roof. I don't think
Well,
that's
you guys
really
are,
just one
yeah, well,
example.
you're putting your money where your mouth is, and it is impressive. And then if you're someone's buying the Essence collection, not only are you buying from a carbon neutral company, but then your watch is made entirely out of recyclable materials, in a sense, like the case and the strap. So yeah,
Absolutely.
you can't lose there.
And if you read here on our sustainability report on the far bottom right, there is a Luminox, which we just introduced a few weeks ago, which is made out entirely, the case and the strap, out of ocean plastic, recycled ocean plastic.
Yeah, and that's a big problem too. So it's nice to be reclaiming some of that from the seas, but that's going to take a lot of work from, I think, all of us to kind of fix.
Yep.
But it's nice to see that you guys are already making that move.
So we are a bit over time. I think we kind of jumped in with the questions that we had throughout. We don't seem to have any additional ones. If there's anybody in the audience that has additional questions, please pop them into the chat. Oh, we have one. Do you think other brands will catch up to Mondaine in terms of becoming environmentally friendly? And I have an opinion on this. I think it's the right, like you said, Andre, it's the right thing to do. Manufacturing does of all kinds, creates quite a lot of waste. And, it is very important to try and reduce that both from, a carbon neutrality standpoint and just general waste, reduction of waste and recycling. So do you think that the industry is moving in that direction?
I wish. Somebody has to be the first one, and I think we are, but I don't think we can really help the world if we don't give at least a signal that something must be done. And this also takes the big one. And on the other hand, I believe we as a small medium company, not listed on the stock exchange, we have got some advantages. Of course, we do have some disadvantages as well, but our advantage certainly is that we can do things independent of the stock exchange. So if we think it's right, we do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we did now for the last almost 50 years in terms of ecology and sustainability. Whereas others, they just fear a little bit more the value of their shares or the public opinion. If they don't do something right, of course, they will be shut down by the social media. And they, especially the luxury industry, they have got another issue, and that's gold and diamonds. They are,
yeah.
Well, everybody probably heard the word blood gold and blood diamonds, so I don't have to explain it further.
No, and I know that there's some companies that are trying to work around that and sort of ensure that it's done properly. But I think that's a very difficult arena to be in. So it's clearly not something you have to deal with. But we did have another question here, which is, do you make watches with automatic movements and mechanical movements?
Yes, we do. Within the Mondaine SBB line, we have automatic watches, and as a matter of fact, we decided to introduce some more automatic watches next year. Okay. In the Helvetica, there is one manual winding watch. So that's part of it. Of course, as a good Swiss company, some automatic watches belong to the collection because we do know there are some people who like to have watches which are really, the mechanical parts are in it, durable, even though they are a little thicker, they are a little more expensive, not as accurate, but it's the true original watch or movement manufacturing capability.
Perfect.
Okay, I think that is it for the questions. Thank you again so much for joining us and for taking us through the history of the brand, and especially for telling us about the sustainability. I mean, obviously, we love the watches. I really like the Ghost Light. So I think that's really cool. And you know, love the clocks as well. But I think the sustainability part of this story is really important, and it is important for somebody to lead the way. So we, you know, thank you for doing that. And again, thank you for joining us and sharing all of this info. Do you have anything else to add, Adam?
Nothing other than to say thank you as well. I know it's later for you than it is for us. So hopefully, you know, your watch will be telling you the time when you head out or what have you. But thank you very much. Fascinating look at what you guys are doing, and an inspirational look at what you're doing.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It's not too late for me. My dog is still waiting for me for his walk. So we'll enjoy, Kathleen. I will enjoy my Ghost Light.
Enjoy your Ghost Light, and you know, say hello to your dog for me. I love dogs, so
Cool.
Have an enjoyable walk with the dog.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.